is connecting, so.
Okay.
All right, well, I think we're
Hopefully
live
it works. Think we're live? Okay.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. If you can see this, welcome.
This is probably one of, like, I mean, I don't want to say we're, but toot my own horn and say that we are the most anticipated, like, live stream, right? But I know people have been looking forward to seeing something like this for a while now.
Yeah, no, we definitely should have been doing this all along, but, it seems like there's not enough hours in the day. Stuff just keeps piling up and piling up, but that's exciting. It's exciting times we're living in now.
Yeah, man.
Blockchain is definitely going mainstream. So we're in a little bit of a bear market right now, but I think things will pick up. It's pretty much been a cycle.
Yeah.
This is the same thing happened last year, all the way even going back to 2013, even 2012, there's been these cycles. So, it's a great time for new people to get into the market for sure.
Yeah, like it's kind of funny as well because I've only been around for about 5 years in total now since I started watching it, but you've been around probably a little bit longer and you've seen the same thing. Like it goes up and it goes down. You almost watch it like every single year, right? Like just the same sort of thing. It's not new to us.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a cycle. And then, that's one thing people should be aware of is this will be volatile and it'll probably be, continue to be volatile for a while. So, but anyway, for those who are just joining, welcome. Thank you all for showing up. If you have some questions, feel free to drop them in the chat here. And also you can tweet them at the main account. We are watching that.
We are.
So, well, okay, I've got it up on mine. So, yeah. So, basically we're here to kind of talk DigiByte, answer some questions, and, just try and, be as open as possible with everybody.
Yeah, nice. So I guess maybe we should just quickly clarify as well, you're on a mobile data connection, which is why people can kind of see the quality occasionally fade a little bit, but it's not too bad, so,
Yeah, I'm on a mobile connection here, so if all of a sudden I disappear and cut out, don't hold it against me.
Means you've run out of data and...
Yeah. Yeah, my account got hacked again. One of the two.
Not again.
I'm sure there's somebody watching that might be trying to do that. So
do you want to talk a little bit about that maybe, and just kind of how much do you really want to say about it?
Well, I think it's important that everybody watching, really take cybersecurity seriously. It's one of those things. I don't use the same password for anything. I have multiple phone numbers. I basically, even by the time I got hacked, I went above and beyond probably what 99% of people would typically do. And even I was hacked. And for those that don't know the story, somebody basically was able to get a hold of my identity. They went to Verizon, which Verizon is one of the largest telecoms in the United States. They were able to convince the Verizon person and social engineer them that they were able to convince them that they were me. And then they had them basically send them a new SMS card or new SIM card. And once they had the SIM card, they were able to take over my phone number. And from there, they were able to take over my Telegram account and a few other accounts. So just a heads up to everybody out there, whatever you do, don't use two-factor SMS for any sort of verification. Make sure everything is encrypted and really kind of do your homework and take precautions for cybersecurity. And as a side note, one thing I want to throw out there is I see a lot of people in the community. I know people get excited, especially when the price starts going up. They'll start bragging and talking about how much money they made.
That's a terrible idea.
Yeah, it's a horrible idea. Don't do that. You're basically putting a target on yourself, and it's going to get worse. As the crypto economy and blockchain technology continue to grow, the market gets bigger. There's going to be more and more incidents of people either getting hacked or having funds stolen. I just read this article the other day. There was 1.1 billion in crypto stolen in the last 12 months already. So,
ouch.
Yeah, so that's not a good thing. So, let's see. What do we want to start with here?
Well, I was also going to say, if Jared ever asks to borrow crypto from you, it's not him.
Yes, it's not me. I will never ask to borrow crypto. I will never ask for a crypto loan. Um, and I will never ask, for money, period. So, yeah. Um, anyways, I guess, the one question I keep seeing pop up here on tweets is when hard fork.
Yeah.
So,
Now, a lot of people are just after free money, I think, as well. But do you want to talk a little bit about, like, so we've been discussing, I suppose, especially you and I know for the last like almost 9 months, the different options, why we would want to do it, what that involves, and the number one thing that you've always come back with every single time is basically, well, this must be with security at the forefront, right? So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, just giving a little background story here. For those that are new, DigiByte has been around since 2014, January 10th, 2014. And since then, DigiByte's gone through 4 hard forks and a soft fork. Each time we've done that over the last 4 years, basically what's happened is we've made some improvements to the protocol. Now, I think a lot of new people are getting confused when we say hard fork, that we're going to like fork DigiByte into 2. That's not the case. We're not looking to create, and I don't even want to give an example of another name because that might just, but basically what happens is we do some pretty major upgrades to the protocol, and we change some things to improve things, right? Well, DigiByte has grown very significantly since the last time we did a hard fork. If you just go in terms of the market, what was it, like a 30,000% increase in 12 months? So there's thousands and thousands of new people, probably hundreds of thousands. Actually, we've got like 220,000 full node downloads in the last year.
Yeah.
So there's been an incredible amount of people, and that's full wallets. And I would imagine for every one full node out there, there's probably 3 or 4 just holding on exchanges. That tends to be the trend.
Yeah, not to mention like Exodus Wallet and things like that. Plus Jax as well are now adding us too. So yeah, they're not even included in that 200,000.
Yeah. So there's much more, because when we say full node, we're talking about full node. But long story short, going back to the original point, since the blockchain and the network is so much larger now, we have to be very, 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 very careful about making major changes to the protocol. And to make these kind of changes, even in the past, it's taken us upwards of 6 months to properly test, develop, and really make sure we're not going to damage anything. I mean, we have to be 100% sure, and we have to release, and make the announcement months ahead of time. So short answer, no, we don't have any hard fork coming up soon. And the main reason is, the original idea behind a hard fork was that we would hard fork to a mining algorithm that was more GPU friendly. Well, in the last 6 months, we've found out that almost every GPU friendly algorithm out there is now being mined by ASICs. So we really wouldn't be gaining that much, and we would actually be, introducing more vulnerabilities to DigiByte. And there's that old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And, we've got a very proven, battle-hardened, time-tested system right now. So, it's actually, I think, more important. I know people like to trade around hard forks, and I think that's where a lot of this excitement's coming from in these questions.
Yeah.
Sure, it's good for a momentary burst, but we're thinking long-term here, long-term vision. What's best for DigiByte? And at the moment, we've got a lot of people that are focusing on kind of bridging the gap in some of our weak points, whether that's the awesome Android developers and iOS developers. Huge shout out, by the way, to Noah and Yoshi and GTO. Those guys are doing fantastic work. Thank you very much. The new iOS app that I was just testing yesterday, it's incredible. So fast. When we finally get the approval from Apple, it's going to be the fastest crypto wallet that's a full SPV node out there. So it's going to be great. I'm seeing some questions about how can we get DigiByte, for payments a little bit easier. Well, when people have a super fast, iOS wallet that, isn't relying on some backend server, it's completely independent and just connects directly to the blockchain. That's a home run in terms of adoption for, merchants and payments. And it's like today, I found out that Wells Fargo, which is one of the big 4 banks here in the United States, their debit cards stopped working nationwide. If you check the Twitter feed, it's pretty funny. people being stuck at restaurants or at the gas station and their card's not working, and it's embarrassing, right? Or they're checking out. So, you don't have that problem with the decentralized system.
Yeah. I think it's also
So-
worth clarifying as well. So certain things like, so we've had the DigiByte Go wallet that uses the Digi Explorer server, and same for the Exodus wallet as well. They also use a back-end server. But these mobile wallets, they are 100% decentralized. They find the peers themselves. They connect directly to other blockchain nodes and things. And so there is no one central point that anybody can basically like take down, and the nodes will the mobile wallets will stop working. So in that respect, it is
No,
way more
it's
redundant.
like the DigiByte Go wallet. There is a back-end service. You still control your private keys, but we've had issues like when we had such insane growth back, in November and December, January.
Yeah.
We kept having to upgrade the server, and it kept, so many new people kept coming online. I think the Digi Explorer processed like 35 million requests in December. So it was just completely taxing and overloading it, and that's why we want to have these decentralized SPV wallets. And by what I mean by SPV is SPV is what they call a light node. It was actually originally specified in Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper back in 2009 as kind of like a lightweight version of a full node, which the full node is where somebody has the entire complete history of all transactions on the blockchain.
I think he even envisaged that most would go to SPV eventually, if memory serves.
Yeah, or like multiple layers.
Yeah.
But, and that's the great part is going back to those full nodes. Is like I said, if you check the link on our GitHub repository, we've had over 220,000 full downloads of the full core wallet. That's the one you download on a desktop or put on a server. So, if we can get a couple 100,000 more mobile wallets out there, it's going to be fantastic. So, anyway, at this point, in terms of a hard fork, we're still analyzing it. There's not an immediate need because the need that was there before has basically been nullified. But the one exciting thing that we've been kicking around and I've heard people talking about is the idea of maybe replacing one of the 5 algorithms for a proof of stake system. So we have a hybrid system where people are rewarded, for basically keeping a full node running on their computer. So they just hold their digibytes, they stake new digibytes, and 20% of the new digibytes, that come into circulation go to people. I think that's a very good incentive for getting people to keep running full nodes on their computer. And as we continue making enhancements to the core protocol to really make things more efficient and just streamlined, I think that's a very real possibility, but it's still a long ways out. We have to test, and all of us are super busy right now. I mean, we're still doing updates here and there, but going back to like I was saying, bridging the gap. Going out and working on partnerships, I just saw a question about dApps. Absolutely. You've been able to build stuff on top of DigiByte for quite a while now. One of the things that's lacking, which we're working to improve, is the documentation. But you can very much build any sort of application on top of DigiByte. Like if you go to the DigiByte.io website, you see that graphic that shows the transaction between two people, and within that can be used to represent everything from music to videos to documents to real estate, which is the project I'm working on right now. I don't want to get too much into that, but that's taking a lot of my time. It'll be exciting when it finally comes out. But, we're trying to build real world use cases and bring it.
Somebody might have let that slip during an interview with Dr. Simon.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, and once again, I just wanted to thank you, Josiah, and thank all the people out there that are working hard on a daily basis. Like at this point, nobody is getting paid to work on DigiByte. It's all volunteer, but we literally have dozens and dozens of people that I think are working almost full time. Doing, whether it's going out contacting exchanges, whether it's working on the Android or iOS app, whether it's working on applications built on top of DigiByte. It's pretty incredible. And one thing I wanted to add is I know a lot of people have given me some grief for not doing this, not doing that, and not being around, not doing it. The reality is, I kind of wanted to take a step back, focus on getting some other important stuff done. It's still DigiByte related, but I don't want to be like the main person. I wanted, and what's been great is there's been so many people like yourself, Josiah, that have stepped up and started doing some amazing things, and I think that's incredible. I mean, because at the end of the day, this is a decentralized system. It's a
Yeah.
community, and it's continuing to grow. And it's truly amazing.
So that was one of the things as
So
well. I think Rudy Bowman, part of the DigiByte awareness team, is basically he's contacted this gentleman recently on YouTube, and he's going to do an interview. And this gentleman basically made like a short little video going, "Hey, this is really cool. I didn't even know there was an awareness team." And so I made a comment just on Twitter, basically saying, "Yeah, like it's not just like one person. This is a broad scope. Like it's." Everybody who participates can take ownership and can be involved and can run a YouTube interview, or they can help out with the development, or or make suggestions about, yeah, I think we should use proof of stake. And that's kind of, I guess, it's a really different mindset for a lot of people, and it's insanely difficult to like wrap your head around the first time you hear it, right? Because it's very counterintuitive to everything that we know about
yeah, no,
business.
and once again, my hats off to the DigiByte awareness team. Like, thank you guys for stepping up, and thank you guys for all you're doing. And that's the beauty is anybody can step forward and start doing stuff. And it is hard. Like one of the things that drives me nuts is people call me the CEO all the time, and they reach out and they're trying to do a formal partnership, and I'm like, you don't need my permission. You can use the logo, you can use the blockchain. There is no company. There is no, it's completely decentralized. So.
I'll be the CEO now. We can.
Just as the new CEO.
Yep, there we go.
It's official. But it's yeah, anybody can participate. So that's a beautiful thing. Let's see. I'm looking through Twitter for some more questions here.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. So I watched this. It was a really cool interview on, I think it was Bitcoin Cash. And this gentleman calls himself the Bitcoin Cash CEO. And he goes into it. It's a short little interview where he discusses why he's the CEO and what that means. And he basically says that it is a decentralized entity. There's no one controlling party. Although, that's obviously up for debate. But again, it's he basically says, look, I decided to call myself the CEO. And so here we are today. He's on television being interviewed as the CEO. And it's like, well, anybody can do that. Anybody can represent DigiByte, and so I try to encourage people, I suppose, as well, not just to represent DigiByte, but to obviously do it in the best light possible, to be professional in their dealings and things. And that's obviously one of the things that you and I specifically are quite anti with the pump and dumps and things. So,
I kind of wanted to actually touch on that for a minute. Talking about the community, like I know there was a kind of a phase a couple of months back. There was a lot of negativity floating around. Even I myself am guilty for some of that. But the thing is, like, after what am I? We're going on 5 years now.
mm-hmm.
One of the lessons I've learned, definitely the hard way, is how to deal with haters and trolls. I've been called every name under the sun. I've had death threats. Obviously, I get constant hacking attempts. But one of the things that I've learned is just to try and stay as positive as possible, and to not completely go out and attack other projects or other people, and unless they're doing something that's blatantly obvious that it's a scam and it's fraudy, they're committing fraud, that's different. But I would encourage everybody in the community to try and be as positive as possible. And sometimes you'll get somebody that'll make a smart remark on Twitter or Telegram, and they may just not know. And sometimes I've actually responded to people, and they're like, "Oh, I had no idea."
Yeah.
And then you end up converting them, into coming to check out DigiByte, and they start believing in the project. So I would encourage people, not to dwell on negativity. People are always going to be, especially the internet, when people can sit behind a computer and aren't willing to actually put their own face forward and deal with all the crap that comes along the side with that. Just be as positive as possible. I mean, this technology is an incredible thing, and it's going to make the world a better place. It's like I keep going, everybody's focused on currency, but blockchain technology, DigiByte technology, can be used to fix 95% of the security vulnerabilities out there in the internet. You could do so much more than simple payments.
Yep.
And that's really, kind of the vision, and that's why we're helping to build that ecosystem of projects and platforms. One thing, the analogy that I've liked to tell people that I've kind of recently I've been reading a lot of books on genetics and DNA, just because I was watching this documentary on nature, and it dawned on me. I'm like, if you really think about DNA, what is DNA? DNA is an identical record of information that exists throughout your body that keeps the most important information to recreate life, right? Well, what if your DNA was just kept in your finger and you had an accident and you lost that finger? Well, life would basically cease to go on. But
Yeah.
that's not the case. What nature did is nature made an identical replication of your most important information and spread it in a decentralized manner throughout your body. And from there, you're able to create a complete human being, right?
Yeah.
Well, how we envision DNA or DigiByte is being like the DNA backbone for a lot of different systems and industries worldwide, right? And you have that most important information encoded in just tiny, minute amounts in the blockchain. Um, and from there, you can build all this incredible stuff on top of it. So I think that's a really great analogy. I found that people helps them understand. It'll be in the book that I'm still writing, Blockchain 2035, and I'll dive into that in a little bit better. But for those that are new and they're trying to understand why blockchain is so important and how this can be used for something other than applications. Other than just simple payments, and how you can build all these other applications on there. Just remember that DNA, because right now most internet services, they run just like if DNA was only in your fingertip.
Yep.
So if that server, that central system goes down, it's gone. But if you look all around you in nature, whether it's trees, whether it's flowers, DNA and the replication of whether seeds or spores in that decentralized fashion is how life continues on. And I think this transformation that we're seeing right now is the transformation of that same sort of universal law from nature and biology into data and electronics. So it's an exciting time, and that's how I would, and that's kind of the gist of the keynote speech I'm going to give at the Utah event coming up. So, anyway, that's just another exciting way to explain it to people.
But it's true, and saying that, especially coming back to, it's payment related, obviously, but you mentioned that credit card payment provider obviously then came down, and they were, people are stuck, right? Like, so if you're using a decentralized application, you don't have that one particular like failure point, which is them processing the payments, or this person for validating documents, or this person for login and authentication services, So it's, again, it comes back to it is a very big shift in mindset that a lot of people struggle to wrap their heads around.
Yeah, it's a paradigm shift. But if you go throughout the history of humanity, you see phases of centralization and then decentralization. So I think we hit peak centralization in 2009, 2010, with the financial crisis, and now we're coming on a wave of humanity back into decentralization, as well as with technology. I'm just checking here. Oh yeah, definitely a big shout out to Demir for his wallet design. That is awesome. It's an awesome design. If you haven't tried the beta yet for the Android wallet or iOS wallet, if you go into the Telegram developers chat, there's some links there. I think there's still a link on the website, but go try that mobile wallet out. You can still download it and help us test it. It's an incredible design. It's very intuitive, very easy to use. I'm just checking Twitter here to see some of the stuff people are tweeting out.
Yeah, nice. Apparently on the YouTube channel, everyone's decided the role of the CEO now, so I might have started something terrible.
Exactly. Everyone can be a CEO.
But it's interesting. So we get people, I'll actually really quickly talk about that. We get people asking often, like, I want a DigiByte email address. And so I say to them, go get yourself one. Go register a domain and set something up. And if you want to represent DigiByte, like in that kind of a light, then there is nothing preventing you from going out and registering DigiByte Incorporation in... don't do it in America, obviously, because that's just a bad idea with all of the legal side. But you could do it, right? Like, and so if somebody wants to register DigiByteCorporation.com, then cool, they can go and do it, and they can use that in their email. So
yeah, anybody is free to build their project on top of DigiByte. There is nothing stopping it. There isn't anything. Yeah, just feel free. The more the merrier. And people ask, how can they help? How can they help everything. Well, tell somebody, tell your friends, sit them down, have them download a wallet, walk them through it. I think that initial hurdle is the hardest thing for people to overcome when they fundamentally realize the system is just completely different than what they're used to. That's the hardest step, and the best way that's overcome is just with somebody that knows. And then also, you learn by teaching. So and then also, if you're a developer, there's plenty of projects. We have like 15, 20 different repositories, pretty much any language you're a developer in. If you got an idea you want to build on top of, a blockchain, by all means, go for it. So, yeah, anyway, so what other questions we got here? What advantage would you say DigiByte has over something like Stellar? Well, first of all, Stellar is a direct fork of Ripple, if I'm not mistaken. So it's pretty much a centralized system that's completely the anti-thesis of what decentralized blockchain technology is all about.
But you can tell when someone's got into the space, though, right? Based on the projects that they think are interesting, right? Like, you can pick that up too, right? Like the people who've been around for about 12 months, they'll look at Ripple and they'll look at Stellar and they'll go, this is great, I'm on to something here. Whereas obviously you've been around for what, like 5 or 6 years now or something?
Yeah. No, it's the important thing is to understand that when you go to coinmarketcap.com and you look at the list of coins, a handful of those projects don't even have above DigiByte. They don't even have working blockchains. And then even more of them are ran on a handful of servers. For instance, like EOS running on 21 nodes. That's like a clustered database. It's not a decentralized system.
Yeah.
And it's the same process. For those that don't know, the same people were behind BitShares, were behind Themid, or behind EOS. And, you can look up to this day and you can see BitShares and all the assets that are running on top of it are running on like 12 servers.
Yeah.
Right? And they're all ran by like 1 or 2 people, maybe 3 people. So people need to understand that some of these systems are not decentralized. There's a lot of security vulnerabilities, and I don't think they're going to stand the test of time. So, I'm not saying I don't want to get into, I do believe there should be multiple blockchains. Like, I don't think it's a winner-take-all situation like some people try and make it out to be.
Yeah.
There needs to be multiple blockchains. And that's the beauty of it is the free market can decide what works and what doesn't. So, that's kind of the situation there. So, let's see. What else?
I mean, it's interesting as well, like, because that's the thing is, especially, so one of the suggestions that people have had for funding development and foundation and marketing and things like that for DigiByte has been that we split off and portion off like 10% or whatever of the funds of every newly minted block to go towards, say, the foundation, for example. But then the problem is you've basically got like one centrally controlling entity, you've got one attack vector, you've got one account that basically has all of that DigiByte in it. Like, who do you think is going to become a target?
It becomes a huge target. And that's why, I mean, sure, it's a great idea, it helps with things, but at the end of the day, you kind of undermine the rest and the integrity of the rest of the system by having this centralized system. So, and just a quick update on the foundation, we're going to be getting some reports for the last couple months expenses, which has basically been around $3,000 for server expenses, and we've been doing things to mitigate those expenses. But that's like what powers DigiExplore, what powers some other services. But people are like, why isn't the foundation officially been formed somewhere? Well, the reality is, last fall we had worked out a deal with a firm, I won't name names, for like $5,000 to help us do it. That firm came back on it, didn't help us. Next thing they know, they started doing all these ICOs. They were paying them a bunch of money, and they wanted 35, 40 grand. Well, if people look at the wallet balances, that would completely wipe out everything that's there. So we're exploring some other options at the moment. But the reality is, we're using those to maintain the network and to do bounties, developer bounties.
Yeah.
So, to continue development. But like I said, everybody that's been working on this it's been volunteer. There was no ICO for DigiByte, and it drives me nuts when people call us a token or an ICO. I get emails all the time. Oh, we can help market your ICO. Oh, we would like to partner with your ICO. Present your ICO. It's like, no, We were never an ICO. We're before all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what makes DigiByte great. I mean, the reality is you could not recreate DigiByte today. It would be drowned out. So the timing was just right. And we've been able to get out there and, we've had some ups and downs, but, we've been able to figure out a lot of the technical problems in 2014, 2015, 2016. We've got 4 or 5 years worth of experience. And instead of just going and launching another blockchain like BitShares and Steemit and what Dan Larimer did and some of these other people, we continue to improve DigiByte. So many of these developers are behind, at least a handful of guys are behind 5 or 6 blockchains. And it's all about money. So.
But that kind of actually brings us, there's a good question as well by Rick, and he basically says, how do we really get DigiByte with all of its greatness out into the world? I mean, he specifically mentioned so it's used as a currency, but there's obviously a lot more than that. That's one of the things I suppose is that I often talk to people about is that we've got the development is down pat and it's been amazing, and the foresight, especially by yourself when you started DigiByte, was incredible. To be able to see the shortcomings of Bitcoin and Litecoin, and to be able to look to the future, like a decade down the line, 2 decades down the line, and kind of prevent some of those shortcomings. So, what? I guess he's asking, what do you think about marketing?
Okay, so I'll just be completely frank with everybody that's listening. I have heard the same argument since 2013, 2014. Oh, you need more marketing. You know, more marketing. And I'll tell you what, the people that I've worked with over the past 4 or 5 years, the worst people, hands down, that ended up ripping you off, ended up being marketing people. Yeah. And the projects that come out, they spend a bunch on marketing, are gone 6 or 12 months later. If you went back to 2014 and you looked at the top 50 coins, which I think DigiByte was about the same place even in 2014, 90% of them aren't around anymore.
Yeah, they're gone.
Fast forward 12 months later, there's this weird cycle in the crypto world where there's like this flavor of the month or flavor of the quarter project where everybody gets behind, and then it dumps really hard and crashes. Somebody goes to jail, something happens, but they spend a bunch of money on marketing. And what that really translates to is people that just want to basically pump and dump. It's really what that comes down to, because the most effective, if you read any marketing materials, the most effective form of marketing you can ever ask for is word of mouth. When a friend or colleague or somebody you trust recommends something, that's the most effective form of marketing you can ever ask for. And then also, people love to root for an underdog. So, the technology speaks for itself. We're growing. And it'll continue to do so. There's a lot of exciting things in the works. So
yeah, well, I mean, I guess you only have to look at the start of 2017 to the end of 2017, and I think you were right. It was, well, I don't think it was quite 30,000%. I think by my math it was 27,000%.
Yeah.
But I mean, considering there was, in terms of formal marketing throughout 2017, there was sweet fuck all, really. Like, and look what happened. Right.
Well, you need to understand, another thing is people don't realize how incestuous a lot of these projects are when you have the same people funding and behind a lot of the top projects. And you have these insider pools that I think they're probably going to get broken up and start, having less and less impact over time. But there was really only a handful of people, maybe 100 people worldwide from like 2014 to 2016, 2017, that were behind probably a couple dozen of the top projects. And they all shared information. They all hung out at conferences together. They all go out and party together. And it's kind of amazing. It's been kind of frankly disgusting, sometimes. And people don't realize that that's played an element too. But, a lot of that will get weeded out. It's starting to get weeded out. I mean, look at how much this ICO craze is falling apart, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 90% of ICOs since July of last year have already failed and flopped.
Yeah.
Less than 8% of projects that have started since 2009 are still around. And I guarantee you DigiByte's going to be around for another, 20 years. So,
I hope so, because we'll still be mining it then.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. So, the thing is, like, we've always looked long term. I mean, even since the Genesis block of DigiByte, January 10th, 2014, target 110 million customers' data stolen.
Yep.
To us back then, it was like blockchain technology can fix a lot of these cybersecurity vulnerabilities. And that is the trend that's going to go into the future. And that's what the gist of this book that I'm writing, which hopefully I'll have out this fall,
Nice.
is, hey, these are all the ways in the different industries and the applications for blockchain technology that are completely outside of payments.
Yep.
And that's the real innovation. That's the real exciting part, because so much stuff can be done. When I've met with people in the past, the first thing they jump on is they're like, oh, it's bad. It can be used for terrorism financing. It can be used for money laundering, and everything's just financially focused. And then you just turn around and you ask them, it's like, well, how did you feel when your data was breached? With Equifax, your credit data, or how did you feel about this recent DNA hack, right? Or what is it, My Health or My Ancestry or whatever?
Yeah.
Going back to that DNA analogy, anytime you have that centralized, focal point, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think it's interesting as well, because the comments that I've seen from people are along the lines of, well, anybody can make a faster Bitcoin. Because I remember there was that news column that went around for a little while that basically summed up a blockchain project in like one short sentence. And next to DigiByte, it said faster Bitcoin. And
yeah, I remember that article.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like, well, you would be disappointed if you were a slower Bitcoin, right? Like, it's not quite like the champion. We're faster Bitcoin. Everyone's faster than Bitcoin. And I think as well, like, everybody's going, especially when you have the semi-centralized staking systems, everybody gets faster and faster with their payments and things. And so I see a lot of people trying to focus on the transactions per second specifically as a means for payments. And yeah, that's cool, but it's only a small fraction of it, because it's going to be used more for storing that additional data. The OP return, is it 80 bytes?
Yeah, it's limited to 80 bytes of data.
Yeah, like to be able to store that kind of thing in the blockchain, and how much of it you can store in the blockchain and when and things, like, I think that's going to play a lot more of an important long-term role than just specifically me sending you money for beer. Right? Like,
absolutely. Yeah. It's it's going back to that DNA analogy. Look at how much data is basically embedded in a tiny DNA molecule, right? It's insane. Like, there's some awesome research. I was just reading a research article where they're saying that the future of data could actually be storing terabytes of data in cells, in molecules. Basically mimicking DNA structure. That's interesting. I was thinking about the blockchain applications there.
yeah.
Fascinating. Yeah. So, okay, I'm seeing a bunch of people on here talking about Binance again.
No,
here's
that never happens, man.
I have not heard anything that Binance is going to add DigiByte. I don't know if they ever will. For those that are new, they don't understand the past history. Binance used us last year in some Twitter polls when they first launched to kind of get popular and famous. They were supposed to add us. We won their stupid vote a few times. And then, long story short, they didn't add us. I have not been in contact with them. I will probably be the last person to know if Binance ever adds us, but they're free to do that. If Binance wants to add us, they can go ahead. But yeah, I have no part of that. So
one of the things as well that I talked about last week, was it last week? Week prior, anyway, was specifically around, like, so we've basically put together this really short DigiByte integration document, because we're based on the same core wallet as Bitcoin, Litecoin, and things. For them to integrate with us is like 9/10 is just copy and pasting, like, names.
No, they could do it in very quick if they wanted to. They could, but yeah.
That's all on them, though. Like, we've given them the details over and over and over again. I've completed the document myself, the application, at least twice, and I know I was talking with some other people in addition to you who have also completed it another 2 times, and so if they want to add us, they can, like, they've got the details in triplicate and then some. Like, yeah.
Yeah, if you trade on Binance, to be honest, I've never even signed up for an account there. I've never traded there, but if you do, contact them. I mean, that's one of the things that community is decentralized, and if enough people keep messaging them, hopefully they'll do the wise thing. So
They'll get sick of us.
let's see here.
and just add us.
Satoshi Light 51% attack in secret. Okay, so this argument, this 51% thing, and Charlie Lee drives me absolutely crazy because he refuses to acknowledge the known bug and vulnerability with the delay and the difficulty adjustment that makes it easy to actually attack something like Litecoin or even Bitcoin for that matter. And the reality is, so I think in my tweet I had my numbers off a little bit. You would have to have 90% of one algo and 40% of the others is actually, I think, the correct number. But because DigiByte has a real-time difficulty adjustment, meaning every single block, if you threw all the Bitcoin mining power in the world, all the Litecoin mining power in the world at DigiByte, you would literally be able to catch that curve in real time and it would be mitigated. So the advantage of multi-algo is very significant because if you did the same thing, if you had a 5 or 10-fold increase in hash on Litecoin or Bitcoin, you would freeze the chain. In an increase, it would actually have blocks happening much faster. In a decrease, it would freeze the chain. Now, how do we know this? Because this is what we fixed in 2014. When DigiByte launched in 2014, we were originally script, right? And when we launched, we had a 2-minute retarget, right? 2 minutes. Now, with a 2-minute retarget, we would see these 5 to 10 to 20% or 20 times or 20-fold increases and decreases in hash, because back then you had these mining pools that would basically all gang up together and they would go from script coin to script coin. So they would go from Litecoin to Dogecoin to DigiByte and they would bounce back and forth. Well, what would happen is even with a 2-minute retarget, they would go from DigiByte to say back to Dogecoin, and all of a sudden our blockchain would freeze. And it would freeze for hours. And in fact, it would happen with Dogecoin. And this is where we helped Dogecoin fix it. And this is why we came up with DigiShield, which is that difficulty. You have to allow it to go up quickly, and you have to let it fall even faster, because what would happen is the chain would freeze. Well, to this day, Litecoin and Bitcoin has not fixed this. So for those that know Bitcoin Cash, when Bitcoin Cash forked, you can look at my tweets from July or August of last year, and I was like, I don't know what everybody's waiting around for. It's going to be days and weeks before they find more blocks, which is the case. It took them several weeks. And what they ended up doing is they forked directly from the DigiByte GitHub repository and directly took DigiShield out of our code to fix it. And that's what's live. Zcash did the same thing. So people don't realize this is a very big problem, and it's going to come in. It's going to hit Bitcoin and Litecoin significantly one day. Like I'm calling it right now. And so one of the things we learned is we could basically take 100 or 200-fold increase or decrease in the amount of hash, and it would be in real time. You wouldn't even see that big of a bump. And so what happened, for instance, when these pools would hit DigiByte or Doge back in 2014, is you would have hundreds of blocks a minute that they would mine. And that same problem and that same thing would happen with Litecoin, if you had like a 5, 10, 15-fold increase or decrease in hash rate. So DigiByte's much more secure. So there's much more to it than just the 51% attack element. And that's what nobody really understands, I don't think. And that's, and by the way, I admire Charlie Lee. Like, I think he's a great guy. So yeah.
It's not like we're at war or anything. I think that's what a lot of people also need to understand as well, because even they've seen some of the tweets that I've sent and stuff, but at the same time, like, I'll also have a really good dialect with him specifically about certain things. So it's not like there's no animosity or anything at all.
There's a lot of people out there that are scared because DigiByte is better. They know that, they understand that, but they'll never acknowledge that publicly because they got a lot of money invested. These people have billions, millions. So of course they're going to ignore it. Of course, and there has been, going back to what I was talking about earlier, this insiders group, like, the people behind CoinDesk, all these groups are basically interlinked if you really start studying the connections behind them. But, DigiByte, we've kind of always been an outsider. We've been the underdog. So there has been an effort to keep us down. No question about it. I've had them tell me to my face at conferences. You have people like Tone Vase. So, it's one of those things. Yeah, but hey, haters are going to hate. And the more they start hating, the more you're doing right. So, let them hate. We'll keep doing good work.
Yeah, well, one of he's also pointed out, I suppose, in the past, it was kind of funny. He's like, why don't you just use 10 algorithms then as well? I thought that was quite cool, but A lot of the sort of people were basically comparing us to Verge a lot, and they were wondering, like, Verge has 5 mining algorithms. What's wrong with they've had the double spin problems and things like that. I think it's also worth mentioning to them that DigiShield, and I've had a chat with the guys behind Verge about this, is that DigiShield would have prevented.
Yeah, they were using
the
a variation of something that was originally known as the Komodo gravity well back in 2014, and the problem with that is it didn't allow the difficulty to increase fast enough, and then it also allowed for what they call a time warp attack, which is what happened where the timestamps got off, and then once you're able to hijack it, so you got to limit how much time these blocks can actually be created and recorded in. So these problems once again were fixed back in 2014 if people just would have looked at the stuff. And it's like I said, it's sad to see that Litecoin and Bitcoin still haven't fixed these problems. So
it's worth mentioning as well. So I passed on those details specifically for DigiShield and MultiShield, especially being that they are a multi-algo blockchain just like us, to the Verge developers and things. And I basically said, here's a link pretty much directly to where you need to go. So for any of our Verge fans who are out there who are watching this, who've got Verge, if you're like DigiByte as well, then they have all the information that they need now basically to fix their stuff. So it's probably worth just clarifying.
Obviously I don't want to see anybody lose money, get hacked. It's never a good thing. But let's see. Merge mining. Anybody could merge mine with DigiByte. They don't necessarily. It doesn't have to be two-way. It can be one-way. It's a possibility. There's actually some pretty exciting stuff. So one of the developers who actually helped with some of the most brilliant DigiShield and MultiShield code, it goes by Mental Colatz on GitHub. He actually sent me some really cool stuff that basically you take the mining algorithms and we basically double it, from SHA-256 to SHA-512, and you can do some interesting merge mine stuff. So he submitted a couple pull requests. I'd love to get some more feedback on it. And maybe we could test it. But there's some exciting stuff we can do. One of the things that I think is important for people to understand about DigiByte, we've made several changes over the years. We'll continue to do that. And, I envision through the year 2035, we're going to have to do algorithm swaps. When quantum computing comes mainstream, which I'm sure it will by 2035, we're going to have to fork to quantum, proof and quantum resistant cryptography, right? And cryptographic algorithms, and so, there's a lot of exciting things that lay ahead. And I think you'll see some significant scalability enhancements, just like we've, proven over the last 4 years. We'll continue to do that. That's exciting. Really excited about 2018. I mean, through the rest of the year, I know it's kind of the bear market, changes the attitude of people, but, the excitement is there's so much technology that's happening, and we're kind of just getting to the point. Think about the internet. The internet existed in 1969, but you really didn't have Google until 1998. So you didn't have a lot of the newer stuff until even the last few years. So 40, 50 years later, it's going to take some time, but it's really awesome to think about the future when you have blockchain merging with like biogenetic material combined with IoT devices, decentralized internet. If enough people have specialized hardware that they can connect directly via signal, and you can, go around your telecom, you don't have to pay your internet bill. It's just decentralized free internet. Now, that's the vision that I see for everybody. That's the cool stuff.
I would love to see more things based sort of on Digi ID specifically for use in IoT devices, right? Like there's huge potential there for mitigating some of the security problems.
Yeah, we've done some cool stuff. We've experimented with it, and that's awesome. There's so much room for commercialization in that area. Between that and the security front, there's so many things. Like there's so many ideas just I've been bouncing around, and prototypes we made over the last couple of years for stuff. It's pretty cool. Somebody asked, can you please clarify what will happen after the year 2035 when all the DigiBytes are mined? Well, believe it or not, we've actually tested this a few times. Because I myself was curious. Like I think back in 2015, we were going to do a hard fork. We're like, okay, let's simulate when all the DigiBytes have been mined on a test net. And guess what happens? Nothing exciting. The blockchain continues.
Yeah, it's really boring, right? Like
It's really boring. Now, why is that? Is because miners get all the transaction fees. So that's what the incentive they have to keep mining. So by the year 2035, I'm assuming it's going to be fairly significant. So that's more than enough to reward it.
now that was when I think you were preparing for the DigiSpeed Hardfork, if memory serves me right, when you did those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that was that one. So, and that's also when we tested the capacity, to be able to prove. At the time it was 280 transactions per second, and we didn't want to bloat the chain, and it's also expensive, but we did carry out a live test to make sure we could actually do 280 transactions per second. But yeah, we also tested what happens basically to simulate the year 2035. So
yeah.
Yeah, so let's see, I'm cruising for more questions.
Well, I think one of the other things possibly worth talking about then, speaking of doing a lot of transactions, is the Lightning Network, because I know that you're a huge fan of it.
Right? Yeah, totally. It's not that I'm like completely opposed to the idea. Like, obviously, any sort of innovation or new idea in the crypto space, like, there's a lot of ideas out there floating around. It's cool. That's the beauty of the open source world and blockchain is, all these different ideas. But the reality is this problem's been solved. On-chain scaling has been solved if it would just be implemented into Bitcoin, which is the whole reason that we created DigiByte in the first place, is to prove it works, right? So on-chain scaling is always the way to go. The whole point of blockchain technology, going back to that DNA analogy, right? If you have separate DNA, throughout your system, it doesn't make much sense. That's like this new proposal with Ethereum for sharding. Well, that's centralizing it. You defeat the purpose of having these identical records for the survival. It's just you need to be more efficient with what you're given. You can do so much in those 80 bytes. I saw a question earlier about adding more opcodes. Yeah, absolutely. That's something we thought about, especially since when we activated SegWit last year. That's something if someone proposed, some new opcodes. But the point that we really need to hit home here is we need to be as efficient as possible with the little tiny amount we have, because if we do that right, then we'll have the best and the most scalable system. And that is, really, and that's one of the things, like, for instance, Yoshi, he's a brilliant programmer, and he was able to find some very significant bottlenecks in the code base there that still exists in some other blockchain wallets, and we're able to improve it. That's why ours is going to be much faster. So we're solving these problems because we have over 6 million blocks, and we got to sync all those headers. Bitcoin's like what, 400,000 right now?
Something like that, yeah.
We have to be more efficient and much better than even their hardware and infrastructure for the Bitcoin network, and we're significantly so. We're solving problems that Bitcoin won't face for a long time.
I think they'll face those problems. I think we came to the conclusion in about like 40 years or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, so it's the thing is, we've got a lot of stuff. We've got a heck of a foundation. And now is the time we start building real world use cases. One of the things for those that are new here, we've always liked to do stuff, build stuff, make sure it works before we ever go out. We're not going to go out and release something, for instance, like the real estate application I'm working on. We've got a prototype that's like actually already working, but we're not gonna put up a website. We're not gonna say the name. We're not gonna do any of this until we know it's ready to go and we can run with it. We can roll with it.
Yeah.
One of the things that drives me crazy in this space is this whole notion that, I just need to put up a white paper and some fancy graphics, and then I'll raise a bunch of money and then I'll go build it. Well, think back. Yeah. What major innovation and company that's still around that stood the test of time ever did that? No, they had a prototype. 2 or 3 guys got a prototype. It works, it's successful, and then they built it up for there. Then you brought on investment. Then you scaled it out, right?
Yeah.
So I can't tell you how many times in the last 6-8 months I've had people try to hire me to build their blockchain app. I talked to some of the crypto hedge funds and crypto VC funds here recently at an event, and they're like, yeah, for every 14 ICOs and projects we see, only one of them has a developer that can actually pull it off.
Yeah.
So I really have such a hard time with putting up all these graphics and all these promises because, I can tell you from experience, when you put something out there and then you don't deliver it, you just get raked over the coals and
Yeah.
ridiculed like there's no tomorrow in this world. It's, that's the one thing I've learned is just don't do it until you're ready.
We actually,
And so if anybody's listening, that's my advice
yeah,
what's the saying? It's always better to under promise and over deliver
yeah,
than the other way around. I mean, the other way around, it's all about mitigating and managing people's expectations. If you go out and promise the world, the next thing you know, you've got the feds on your butt, you've got lawsuits, you've got all this other stuff. So that's there's a reason DigiByte's been around for 5 years and we're still here and we're still steady. And 95% of the other projects have failed.
yeah.
It's because we've adhered to these values that will succeed long term.
I think it's interesting as well because quite often we see, like, I'm sure you see it as well on Twitter and things, and people come to us and they will say, hey, you guys need to come and look at this. There's a company out here and they want to partner with us. We need to go and we need to talk with this company and let's get this partnership. And sometimes we'll do it and we'll just kind of humor them and we'll talk with these people because they're going, yeah, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. It's going to bring XYZ into mainstream. And so a couple of times I've actually done this and I've gone and I've talked with these potential prospects, one of which was only a couple weeks ago. And this particular, it was another blockchain that this was that they were trying to get us to partner with. And this other blockchain, basically, long story short, it came out, this other blockchain has no developers whatsoever. They're only developers up and gone.
Yeah, no, a lot of times, you'll have these projects, they'll just clone a repository and then pay somebody to compile it, and then boom, just up and leave. They'll pump and dump, they'll run off. I can't tell you how many developers I've seen do that. They'll start a project. I even called them out, even going back to 2014. You'd have some guys that started 4 or 5 projects, right? I remember when there was the whole phase of the country coins. There was Canada coin and a few others. It was insane, right? And then it's the same group that was behind them. They even had the same website hosted on the same server, right? They didn't even manage to even bother doing them different. So
2014 was a very different time, though, right? Like even back then, if you didn't have a working blockchain, like, so I remember when Ethereum showed up, and they're like, we don't actually have a working product. They were ridiculed so hard
for 2 years.
Yeah, man.
We did it completely different. I understand they had a bigger war chest, but it doesn't mean they're going to be better in the end. I mean, right now, DigiByte's faster and more scalable. I mean, CryptoKitties brought Ethereum to its knees. So yeah. So let's see here. Question.
We'll redo CryptoKitties one day on a blockchain that's not going to fall to pieces, right? Like.
Bitcoin. Well, the CryptoKitties had some important innovations, especially applying to real estate. But I don't want to get too much into that right now.
I feel like you want to say something, but I feel like you'll get shot if you do, right? Like,
yeah, you gotta be careful with what I say here.
Okay.
Let's see. Bitcoin talk is dying. Shall we let it die? Bitcoin talk was the place back in 2013, 2014. It's definitely not used as much.
Yeah.
We still post there sometimes, just kind of. But yeah, by all means, Twitter and Telegram are kind of the center of the crypto verse or the crypto universe at this point. It's so much easier to communicate and have different chats and information on Telegram, as well as Twitter. Facebook seems to be kind of dying. I know a lot of people recently have deleted their Facebooks and a lot of pages.
Yeah.
It's not as good as it was.
I think a lot of people are now, especially for DigiByte, are hanging out specifically in Telegram, but I know that obviously there is, like, I'll wake up some mornings, I'm not in a lot of channels because I've gone and pulled myself out of them, but an average morning for me is between 800 and 1,000 messages. So
yeah, so somebody just asked about Discord. We've had a Discord channel. We've had everything in the past. And it's the same thing like Josiah said. I'll wake up in the morning. If I check Reddit, YouTube, Telegram, Signal, some other encrypted apps, Twitter messages, LinkedIn messages, emails. We're talking like 15, 20 different platforms. There's no software to manage it all. And basically, you literally get overloaded with hundreds of PMs, thousands of messages, and you don't actually get anything done that day.
Yeah.
So
you can spend all days just replying with links to FAQs and stuff. It's crazy, but
right.
So unfortunately, there comes a time where you I'm speaking for myself, but I'm presuming it's going to be the same for you. You simply can't reply to every single message that comes your way, and I just want to kind of reiterate to people not to take it personally if we don't specifically reply to every single time that we're tagged, especially like in Twitter, we don't need to be brought into
Yeah.
your own little like scrap bell kind of things where you've gone and said some shit, and then I'm sure you see that as well, right? Like,
Yeah. No, it's just, yeah. Let's see.
so if
So
we don't come and you know, draw our sword and try and, like, you know, stand up for you in every single little thing like that, then that's why I
Yeah.
don't take it personal. You know, we'd love for people to do some more research and find out why DigiByte's so great, and the differences between certain blockchains and things like that, so that they can engage in a productive discussion themselves, I think, is probably the main thing.
So yeah, exactly. So this guy mentioned that projects with billions of coins dilute the price as they produce so many coins through mining. Is this a fact why DGB is generally valued lower? Part of that people need to understand is some of these projects are so heavily pre-mined. You have a handful of people sitting on 80-90% of the coins. And so when only 10% are actually in circulation, traded on the market, you have a dramatically higher market cap than is what it actually would be if you had 100%. And with DigiByte, you have 100% of all coins are on the market. Every DigiByte I have, I either mined or bought on the market myself.
Yep.
Right? There was no like insane pre-mine and 80%, you know, in developers' wallets, and people really need to do their homework. Some of the top coins in the top 15, 20, well, some of them don't even have working projects, but they're so heavily pre-mined. I mean, all the way up to 100%, like Ripple.
Yeah.
People don't realize that. Like Ripple can censor your transactions and at 100% pre-mine. So they slowly release a few to market, and that just insanely jacks up their valuation. So DigiByte has a much more honest and true appropriate market cap level than the majority of other blockchains out there. And it'll even out eventually. I'm not worried about that part.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's part of the long-term thinking is that it doesn't. The short-term differences and variations in price are not of great consequence when you are looking to the future, and that kind of yeah.
Yeah.
I think that makes
no, like
sense.
I said, I'm not. I mean, I know obviously people put hard-earned money into this stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm not like I never, as most people know, like thankfully I think it's got out there enough. People don't really ask me anymore when the price is going up or down because I don't give price speculation.
Yeah.
Never have, never will. I'm not going to tell you because first of all, I'm horrible at it. Second of all, it's not the most important thing. What's most important is actually building real-world applications that utilize this technology. You know, that's the most important thing is if you do that and you bring real value and utility to people, then the rest follows.
Yeah.
So
Speaking of being horrible at it, it's probably worth as well. I've mentioned once or twice as well to people that I actually borrowed some money in December to purchase some more DigiByte because, you know, reasons, and it was December being what December was. And stupidly, I thought I would try my hand at some day trading. And anyway, long story short, I ended up losing like 40,000 DigiByte out of it. So if people are going to ask me what's going to happen with the price, I am the worst possible person to ask. You do not want to be asking me anything at all like that because it's just not going to end well for me. So, but yeah, same thing, like, right? Like it's everything that I have, I've basically mined myself. Like I literally sold my house to buy mining equipment for graphics cards for DigiByte and things. So yeah, it's not like there's a great big war chest. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, the original 0.5?
Oh, so, you know, going back to 2014, there was a 0.5% pre-mine, and half of that was given away within 6 days. I think to like 5,000 addresses on Bitcoin Talk. You can still see the threads to that day. It's all on the blockchain. The other 0.5% was used to pay for the first iOS wallet and the first Android wallet and the first Mac OS X wallet.
I think it was 0.25.
And you got to keep in mind. Yeah, and that was all gone within the first like couple months. It was all documented. It was all like transparent, and also the market cap was like $100,000. So you know we're talking about at this point, you know, minute amounts. So yeah, that was all gone. So
I think I did the
you know,
math
like I said.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, if you compare, like I said, some of these projects are sitting on 60, 70, 80, 90, 100%. And it's some of them had some very shady beginnings. So if you really do your homework and you look at some of them, you know, that's the thing. So
I think originally the 0.25%, because if memory serves me right, the developer didn't retain them. This was some other developer. And anyway, basically it was worth about $5 or $6 grand at the time US. Like it was was not a lot. And
Yeah.
so
So
compared to things like there are other coins out there that have 10% that were pre-mined, which they've still kept most of it, and same for other coins which are taking that like 20% of each block, for example. It's in
yeah,
terms of fair
I mean,
distribution.
there's, like I said, our vision and our guidelines is, let's keep it decentralized, let's keep it secure, because if you do those two things, you can change the world.
Yeah. Um, there was something else
Yeah,
that I was going to go through, but I've lost the question. That's all right.
yeah, I'm looking, I'm scanning here. Yeah, do
Um,
something like this monthly. Yeah, I would like to do something like this monthly. We can have some stuff and just kind of get, we can talk about the current state of the market.
what's been
Um,
going on, and yeah,
yeah,
market mostly red right now, but one of the things I
yeah.
think as well people have been quite optimistic about is the fact that now Bitcoin has been labeled as not a security. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Not being from America myself, it basically doesn't mean anything to me, really.
Well, it looks like it would be good news for DigiByte because the chairman of the SEC basically came out and said, if it's decentralized, it's not a security, it's outside our scope, which is kind of what we've been hoping for. That's the best possible situation, and that's the best situation. That's kind of like how it should be treated. But some of these, the spectrum is so wide, and that's the beauty of blockchain is there's so many applications. So at first I saw some really scammy ICOs, and obviously I was completely anti-ICO there for a while. But as I've had conversations, like when I was just recently at Harvard, I was on the panel with a gentleman by the name of Darren, who specializes. He actually helped with the first Regulation A offering, not for crypto, but back in 2012, 2013, it was for Elio Motors, where they built the three-wheel car. Um, I've been reading some of his stuff and had some good conversations with him. He believes that blockchain technology can allow for a complete rethinking and re-innovation of the way security offerings happen, which I agree with.
Mm.
So I think we are going to have ICOs. It's here to stay. It's not going away. And I actually think there's some cool stuff. And in fact, I don't know if I should say this, but we've actually experimented and we played around, and we have a system to issue assets on top of DigiByte. It's already been out there. We've tested it, the code stuff. We've had it for almost a year now. Very much possible, and we'll be using that with some projects upcoming here. And we do plan on doing some of these projects, like I keep mentioning, real estate. We are very much looking at doing a regulated offering on top of the DigiByte blockchain, issuing assets in a regulated manner, because you're not going to be able to do that in an unregulated manner, and that's just the way it is. So, but no, the blockchain itself, I think, is decentralized. I mean, I don't really know how you could govern it, because the one thing I've always made sure to do since day one is if something happened to me, I get hit by a bus, some whack job decides to do whatever, everything goes on. Nothing really changes. Everything continues. There's enough people out there that are involved, and I'm not needed. Everything goes on by itself. So that's the beauty. So
There would be an appropriate amount of time for mourning, I suppose, but then we would carry on, right?
right. So
Yeah,
um,
it's really.
so since Western Union says Ripple is too expensive to use, has anyone reached out to Western Union to inform them about DGB? Believe it or not, they actually invited me to their worldwide development headquarters in San Francisco, and I sat down with their global director of digital innovation for about 3 hours one day in 2016 and explained to him everything about DigiByte. And it was a very interesting conversation. And he's like, you know what? Like, our system's extremely inefficient, and we make a lot of money doing that.
Yeah.
So
What are you gonna do, right? Like.
a lot of people keep talking about, where's the partnerships? Where are the partnerships? And the reality is, I've met with a lot of companies. I have, like, a lot of major Fortune 500 companies. I'm not going to put that out publicly, because then all the rumors start and the hype starts and all this stuff,
Yeah.
and then people don't really want to meet you if you have a reputation for doing that.
Yeah.
But the reality is, and I learned this the hard way, these big companies are not going to jeopardize their brand on a public, decentralized, open source system. It's too risky for them. We found that out the hard way last year with the City Tech for Integrity Challenge. I don't know if a lot of people know, but because of all the memes that we're having on Twitter, they were going to kick us out the morning we got there. Like
Yeah.
they called us in first thing, and they're like, "We're seeing all this crazy stuff on Twitter. We don't want this. We don't want our brands associated with it. Like, we're really thinking about removing you right now."
Yeah.
And we had to go through a lot, and that's that's the tough part of being a truly decentralized system is, any legal team or any brand manager is not going to risk some of the crazy stuff that you see in the blockchain crypto world. So
which is ironic given they were called Tech for Integrity, and then you've got all of this other shit going on at the same time, and it was what perfect timing, right?
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. It's like people keep expecting some sort of secret backdoor partnerships and agreements. And the reality is, any of these companies can come out at any time and do it on their own. They don't have to partner with me. They don't have to partner with the foundation. They don't have to do anything. Anybody can implement it. And every day you're seeing new companies and new businesses that are integrating and implementing DigiByte. So it is happening.
Yeah, it was actually, so I mentioned that I was talking with a friend a little while ago. I've mentioned this in the past. I'm not sure if I've said anything to you, but we were having a good chat, and he all of a sudden in conversation it comes up and he goes, yeah, we've been using DigiByte, and I'm like, wait, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, well we implemented it into our product, and I'm like, that's awesome. I didn't know. He's like, yeah, well, of course it is decentralized. We don't have to tell you. And so I asked him if I could then obviously, talk to other people about it, but he said he would prefer it didn't go mainstream. But there are, even in New Zealand, we're halfway to Narnia here, and we still have, our nationwide companies that are implementing the DigiByte blockchain and using it on a daily basis. So
yeah, I mean, there's a company out there that's using it to securing international trade shipments. So I mean, there's some, we should actually do this on future ones. We should highlight projects that have actually implemented it. That would be pretty cool.
Well, I tell you what, why don't we, like, really quickly, I'll bring this up, where it's just so people will not see your face for a second here. And I'll bring this up. So what they'll see here is, this is whmcsnow.com. Why don't I put the link here real quick?
Okay, cool.
Because this is one of the guys who's part of our community. He got involved with Digi ID, and so when you go to the WHMCS Now website, not only did he integrate it for their company, but he also made a WHMCS plugin, so anybody can actually use this if they're running WHMCS, which a lot of like hosting providers and internet providers and things do. So this is something that's really cool, and I think it's fantastic. You can see here that you can view the code on GitHub for the actual plugin itself. And yeah, it's really cool. So you can actually, I think if we go client area here, it will give you the actual Digi ID, and he's even got it with the Digi ID logo and stuff in the middle, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, check these guys out. WHMCS Now, if you happen to use WHMCS, they have implemented Digi ID, and it's fantastic. So
no, that's really awesome. Yeah, for those that don't know, Digi ID's out there, and there's definitely people integrating with it and doing it. It's pretty cool. So yeah, so this question, how much DGB does Tate hold? Well, the reality is actually not that much. I do kick myself because it was
a lot cheaper last year.
Yeah, well, sticking to a project for 5 years, I had some down points where I had to pay some bills, and in 2015, 2016, a lot of what I mined early on, like I literally had to pay bills with. It's kind of disappointing, but
yeah,
at the end of the day, I believe in this technology, and I believe it's going to change the future. And that's why I'm still here. And I'm not going to abandon DigiByte anytime. At this point, it's kind of like a baby, and it's it just went through like the terrible 2s and 3s, and now it's a toddler. And
wait, so you're not going to pump this up and then go start shilling nano? Like, is that?
Yeah. So no. Anyway, let's see here. Trying some of these questions.
Yeah, so Vinny says, I think people forget that Digi ID is not just for passwords or logins on websites. It could be used for IDs, tickets, for concerts, and things like that. Yeah, like that's one of the things that we've been looking at, is there's so many applications for Digi ID, and to use the DigiByte blockchain for, like you were saying, Internet of Things devices. The possibilities are endless, absolutely endless.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, and it's just the beginning. This thing, it's going to take 5 to 10 years for a lot of this to really be utilized and understood. The problem is most people right now just quite don't understand it. Everybody's still stuck on the oh, it's money phase,
Yeah.
right? We've got to get beyond that, and that's why I'm trying to put a lot of effort into doing interviews, to doing like writing this book, and to like doing speaking engagements, because it's just as much about education now and really getting people to understand it. So that's why, yeah, I mean, if there's some great people who want to do interviews, I'm more than willing to do that. Although I'm crazy busy, so I got a crazy busy schedule.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm always trying to make time. So another question: is it useful to run a DigiByte node if you are not mining? Absolutely.
Yep.
One of the best things you can do is to run the full core wallet on your desktop in the background. That's super helpful to the network. So
what happens, I suppose, is probably worth clarifying for people. If you've got like your mobile wallets, for example. So if you have forwarded and opened the ports in your firewall, what they will do is they will connect to your node to ask for the balance of their public key, for example. So your data is never sent to anybody in terms of like your private keys. It all remains secure, and same for if you open up your node to the world. But by doing that, you are directly contributing to the ongoing running of the network, and so I can't recommend enough that people do that. I think it's fantastic.
yeah. So another question: what is the reason for going with a high supply versus a low supply? Well, when DigiByte was created, we basically foresaw the day when millions and millions of people around the world were actually using this technology. And we wanted to keep it with a 1 to 1,000 ratio with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin has a maximum supply of 21 million. DigiByte has a maximum supply of 21 billion. And the idea was 21 billion in 21 years. So, and then there's a 0.5% reduction every month. Is that right? Or a percent reduction? I can't remember.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think it's also worth clarifying as well. So if you look at the likes of, say, going forwards, if we have, let's say Bitcoin reaches $1 million, which a lot of people are kind of going, yeah, that's actually incredibly doable in the next, however many years, because you can only divide it by 8 decimal places to get down to a Satoshi. That's not enough to be.
Exactly. And let's be honest, like I've introduced a lot of people, and a lot of times when I'll meet people, I'll be like, have you heard of Bitcoin? And they'll either be like yes or no, depending on where you're at. But they'll be like, oh, it's too expensive. It's $6,500. I don't have $6,500 because there's this notion. People initially think that it's like a dollar. A dollar is a dollar, and it's divisible a little bit, but you can't. Most people don't know you can buy 0.00001 Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
And so we kind of thought through that originally, and we're like, well, it makes more sense. And now it's kind of getting to the point, it was hard to explain it to people when DigiByte was like a fraction of a penny. Now we can say, oh, it's 3 cents. And then instantly people are like, oh, well, maybe it'll go to $1. Maybe it won't, Yeah. That's, so it does have a psychological element to it. And it's better for mass adoption. That was the original vision, is let's set this up properly from the beginning so it can scale to handle transactions. It can scale to handle the infrastructure built on top of it. And that the incentive is still there once, thousands, hundreds of thousands of millions of people are involved. Unlike, Bitcoin, where, unless you were an early adopter and insider, nobody was going to go out there and buy a large amount of Bitcoin, right? So
It's really funny, right? Like, so I'm in a bar. I met up with my cousins and my grandfather, and we're all having a beer kind of thing. And they shouted a round of beers. And so on my wallet, I basically, I had both DigiByte and I had Bitcoin, and we were talking about it, and they were asking, why are you involved with DigiByte and things like that. And so I offered to pay for my drinks, one to each of them. So I paid for one with Bitcoin and the other with DigiByte. And so I sent one of them like 0.0000, and it took basically I hit the send button. It didn't show up until later on that evening for him. Whereas for the other cousin, where I was sending DigiByte, all of a sudden in his newly downloaded DigiByte wallet, instantly he's got himself 200 DigiByte, and he's going, that was instant. Like he sees it almost going.
See, we need to film that. We should have filmed that.
I should have filmed that, right?
One person sends Bitcoin, and then even throw Litecoin in there, and then DigiByte, and then somebody should do that. So if you're out there and you're watching, somebody try that in their local pub and then like film it, right?
That would be
Download
cool.
the new iOS wallet or the new Android wallet, pay for it with that, and then compare it, side by side. That would be a great video if somebody does that.
Yeah.
So
I would retweet that. There we go.
yeah.
See who gets drunk faster, someone just said. Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I like DGB and Stellar. Once again, Stellar's centralized. It's a completely different system. It's a fork of Ripple. So people need to understand that it's not the same sort of system. So
in terms of, I think that's probably a really good question, because we get asked that a bit, I suppose. And so part of it kind of hinges on the fact that we don't have the mobile wallets are not officially released, even though they're basically like 99% done. I think at the moment for Android, we're just waiting on like 5 or 6 translations, a couple of phrases, and we're like, they're ready basically. But in terms of like generally being able to go somewhere and buy something with DigiByte, what do you think has possibly been preventing that kind of thing, or what do you think that we could do, or the community, I suppose, could do to encourage that kind of thing?
Just like you said, next time you're out at a pub, get somebody to download the wallet and just send it to them. That's, and ask to pay your bill in crypto. A lot of places I'll go to, I'll be like, oh, I want to pay with crypto. And of course, you usually get a blank stare.
Yeah.
But if you do that enough, and enough people do that, it's the best way to get it.
Yeah, nice.
So, yeah, the iOS beta is available. There's a link. Is the link on the website, or is it? If you go to the developer chat on Telegram, that's the best way to get in there and to get at it. I think we have to add you to the list.
Yeah, so basically we need your iTunes email address that you use on it, because basically it sends you an invite inside of Test Flight. It's not going to be like that forever. We're about to resubmit again to Apple, so there's a high chance that we'll see the wallets real soon anyway, outside of this beta scope. So yeah, if you are excited but you're not particularly tech savvy, or you just simply can't be bothered messing around with Test Flight, then yeah, it's coming real soon, I'm sure.
Yeah. Another thing. So a couple more questions. How many DGB nodes currently? Well, let me post this link in here. You can see there's been over 222,912 downloaded since we released the SegWit upgrade last year. How many of those are active? It's hard to say. If I check the C node,
I had 700 peers connected to one of my servers just the other day, and
I just checked. There was over 1,000, but that doesn't mean that's all on the network. So there's probably a few thousand active at any given time. Bitcoin's been around like 5,000 or 6,000. Well,
I've got 4 seed servers of my own. Plus, I obviously know the details of the other DigiByte seed nodes. This one particular one that I was looking at that had 700 connected to it did not know about any of those other nodes out there that I know of. So it was
the network. This last upgrade we did earlier this year reworked a lot of the P2P networking side and made a lot of significant enhancements to streamline things, so the wallet doesn't have to.
It's a lot faster.
It's a lot faster, and it made quite a bit. Like if we could have had the same version we were running out way back in the day, it would have been insane, back in the beginning. But obviously that's the improvement, right? That's how things improve. So
yeah.
DGB swag. I wear my DGB hat every day. Yeah, no, that's totally. There's a few places out there. I know, like 24 All Trade with Blockchain Denim. He's got some DigiByte swag. What is the other one? Always Hodl.
Yeah, Always Hodl, I think have some. I don't remember where I got it from, but you'll probably see behind me over there as well. We've got a nice little backpack as well. If you jump on Telegram and ask for Devin C, he's been doing some backpacks and stuff. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to see if I missed any other.
Actually, I think probably one of my favorite things as well. I'm not too sure if you've seen these. Basically, they are small little. If I hold that up, is that going to be?
Yeah. Those
little,
are cool.
Poker chips. I got sent a bunch of those as well. Thank you again for sending me those. Yeah.
If to all the people that are new here, welcome. And if you don't know about Telegram, that's kind of where the main there's all sorts of different groups. There's a mining channel, there's a support channel, there's a developers channel, There's a marketing channel. There's a North America channel. There's Europe. So, yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff going on. So, I'm trying to see. Not seeing any other questions. What is your prediction about DGB's usage as money in the future? To be honest, to think of it like as a currency is really hard right now, because when you call it a currency, people instantly compare it to the euro or the US dollar. And it's really hard to make that comparison because there's an infinite supply of dollars and euros. They print billions every month. DigiByte is scarce. It's limited. It's more like a rare asset. So I like the term digital asset. I don't like calling it currency because I feel like it misleads people. And it's also really hard for large scale merchants to actually take it because of the fluctuations. I mean, we're still seeing 20-30% swings in a 24-48 hour period. Yeah. And if you're a merchant, for instance, like overstock.com, I remember I was listening to the conference call, because Patrick Byrne is doing with Medici's doing T0, going back to what we were talking about earlier with securities offerings on a blockchain. Overstock operates on a 1% margin. And if the currency that you're taking and accepting is fluctuating 10% an hour, that makes doing business at this point impossible. I don't think it's going to be like that forever. I think we'll get to a point, it's the hockey stick. If you look at the adoption of, like, say, Google and or the adoption of Facebook or the adoption of the internet itself or mobile phones, you have this initial kind of gradual process, and all of a sudden you just hit this great hockey stick inflection until eventually you get to a plateau when you reach the maximum amount of users. So I think with crypto, when we entered the hockey stick. We still got more to go over the next 2 to 3 years. So maybe by the year 2023, 2025, I think you'll see it level off, and I think the utility as a currency will be a lot stronger and make more sense. Because for a merchant at this point in time, it really only makes sense if they're willing to take the risk and to keep some of it in crypto, hedging that it'll go up over time, right? So it is hard, the currency part.
Yeah.
And that's why we like the term digital asset, that you can do way more than just send money.
I just shared as well a quick little video that somebody put together that shows specifically for Bitcoin, but it shows just how much it is going up, and then it levels it off, and then you see it going up, and it zooms out a little bit more, and it's just an incredible little video. So yeah, highly recommend people check that out.
Okay, so somebody just said, can the merchant instantly convert to mitigate? Absolutely. And I've actually seen some proposals, and that makes a lot of sense, especially internationally. You can send a payment, like if I pay a developer in Australia or somewhere else, it's there in a few seconds. They can convert it to fiat, and there's really not that much risk if you do that. That's actually a very good use case for payments if the price is gone.
I think Coingate do that for DigiByte.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, Coingate, I think it is.
Somebody says, do you have any plans to burn? How would we burn? Like, I every time somebody asks me that question about burning coins, we didn't pre-mine it, right? We don't control the supply. It's completely decentralized. It's out there. It's impossible for us to burn stuff unless you want to volunteer your DigiBytes and then you can burn them all you want.
Yeah, a really good way to burn your DigiByte is basically to send it to some random Doge address and then tell us that you've gone and done that, and then they're no longer part of the ecosystem. I mean, technically they can. Doge is very similar to DigiByte. You can probably restore the wallet, but yeah, send it to some random address you've never seen before, and then you've just burnt your coins. So that's.
Right.
That's
anyway, sorry, it's just I get frustrated when I see that question by people, because it's like that's part of the problem is people don't realize how centrally controlled and mined a lot of these and pre-mined a lot of these coins are.
Yeah.
And you have a handful of people that are sitting on 40, 50, 60, 70, 80% of a lot of the top projects. But anyway, people really need to do their homework on some of these other projects, right? But anyway,
do you think DigiByte
what's worse,
will be in the
burning
top
questions
10?
or Binance?
Sorry, what was that about Binance?
What's worse, burning questions or Binance?
There's no one.
I don't know. I understand people have legitimate questions. Like, I know a lot of people just don't know, and they're new and they're excited.
Yeah,
I understand that. That's part of the reason, we've tried to put out as much information out there. The MAT, I wouldn't say either one of them are horrible. I mean, there's no such thing as a dumb question. I believe that.
Well, I tell you what, actually, so someone's just asked, do you think DigiByte will be in the top 10 in the next 18 months? What I'll do is if I bring up Coin Market
Well, yeah,
Cap,
if you actually look at it, I think we're already like super close. If you looked at ones that are actually secure, that aren't pre-mined, that aren't centrally controlled, and they're proof of work mineable, that's what people need to filter by. I think we're already close to that.
Yeah, so if you change from cryptocurrencies and you filter by non-mineable, or which gets rid of them, so all of a sudden, like Ripple's gone, poof.
Can you post that link in the chat so people can see it?
Yeah, so we're at number 17 at the moment. If you do it this way, I've actually just brought it up on screen as well, so they can't see your face right now.
8 on that list in the past. So
yeah,
no, people, that's your decentralized list right there. That's what you should look at.
Yeah. Hiding some positives. Do you have the actual amount or names on what blockchains are using the DigiShield? So there's Zcash, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, Ubic, Monocoin.
Dozens of other ones that have forked off, like smaller ones, but yeah.
I saw a list. There was over 2 dozen. I think it was closer to 2.5 dozen last time I checked back in January. So there's a lot that use DigiShield, like a lot. Dogecoin.
Yep. Yeah. So I think that's probably we've been going for quite a while now. So let's try and do this every at least every couple of weeks, or at least maybe once a month.
Yeah. Well, we've labeled this one DigiHangout number 1, so it kind of implies that there might be a number 2. We might be misleading people a little bit, but we'll see.
Do that. We've done this in years past, but the community just wasn't as big as it is now, for sure. So
yeah, I remember you called them your roundtables, and you'd wake up at some early ass hour in Hong Kong.
I had to do it at like 3 a.m. in Hong Kong. Yeah.
Yeah, just because of the time zone differences. So yeah, like this has been cool. We should do this again. Thank you so much as well for coming, and it's always nice to
thank you, man.
Yeah,
and thank everybody for watching. Thank you all for being here, and those that are watching this, I know it's being recorded. It'll be posted. It's awesome. It's amazing to see the incredible people that are in the DigiByte community, out there on a daily basis. And I want to thank everybody that's doing it. We're working hard. Like I said, we've been here for almost 5 years now. We're not going anywhere. It's really hard to say. I don't know anybody that has a track record like we do. So
yeah.
Nice
pat on the back for DigiByte there.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you all, and don't hesitate to next time get a Lamborghini and some hot girl.
We'll take donations. Thanks, guys. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well,
thank you so much for coming
thank you,
on,
everybody.
as well.
And hope everyone has a great weekend. So we'll talk to you guys later.